Hi everyone, welcome back for another episode. Today we're going to take a look through the garage and also stay for the end where we will do a bit of a Q&A on what we've done this year, what we've got planned for 2021, and answer some of the common questions I see on some of the fullBOOST project car videos, as well as my own in some of the stuff I post on social media. So before we get started, just a couple more things. If you could subscribe to this channel, would be fantastic, because more people that see this, the more, I guess, enthused I am to do more videos. It's a long, hard slog to do YouTube, and there's essentially no reward for it. So there's no real incentive to keep on making videos other than I like doing it, but I'd like it a lot more if a lot more people saw the content. So subscribe and share it on your own social medias. That'd be great. Second of all, what pays for all these project cars is money out of my own pocket. So you know, going to the fullBOOST shop and buying merchandise, or going to my own website, mrparts.com.au, and buying merch there, or automotive performance parts. That really helps me reinvest all the money back into cars like the one on the hoist right here behind me, to bring you more content, because the more cars that we can spend, you know, free money on, the more content we have to show on YouTube for you guys. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at this shed. All right, so before we get started, let's just see what we're sort of playing with here. In the shed is a big, long, narrow boy. So it's only about 5 meters wide, and it's about 12.5, 13 meters long. So it's not a huge space, but just make it work with what we've got. So first off, I guess the garage is sort of a tale of 4 quarters. We have this first, separation sorted in the concrete and the split. This is the first quarter. This is the second quarter. And then down the back here, we have the back sort of half. So quarter 3, quarter 4. So I might cover it off in those quarters now and yeah, run through what they all are. So the stuff up here would be the absolute least used stuff. We've got a sandblasting cabinet that I can't even remember the last time I used, to be honest. And with the space constraints I've got here, I might as well even actually sell this thing, because I just don't use it. I mean, mainly always working with a lot of new parts and stuff like that, so I rarely ever use that. I've got your normal, you know, your standard garage sort of press, 12-ton hydraulic press and that. Use that every now and then, but it doesn't get that much use because it's not really required. I only really use this when I'm building engines and I'm pressing out bearings out of rotaries and that. Here we have injector cleaning machine. Now, I don't use this machine as a test bench to do commercial or retail injector cleaning for people. This is basically just for my race car, so I can put the injectors in, make sure they're all within, you know, a couple of % of each other, and then whack them back in, because yeah, I mean, if one injector's stuck open or not working at all, you'll have a really bad day at the racetrack. So I've had this for about 4 years or so now, and it's really handy. Underneath that is a parts tub, parts washer tub, so use that from time to time. But yeah, haven't had much use in the last couple of months because I've been absolutely flat out. Down here is some stuff from a previous project. You can see PAT, Premier Auto Trade. So it's all the racework stuff from Tornado, and yeah, I've just got to put that back into some other tubs I'll show you a bit later, but there's some stuff left in there. This stuff here is stuff I'm waiting for people to pick up. So this is all sold. The tyres and the wheels off Redline, and there's the transmission off Project Redline in there as well. So it's not Hugh's one. Hugh's is somewhere else. This is my old transmission, but yeah, I'm just using that box because it's a good way to store at the moment. So if we come across here, just some empty fuel drums, just got those stored there for the sake of it. And the original engine out of Project Redline, the Series 4 RX-7 engine. So this engine's been beat on pretty hard. Probably needs, it had really old second-hand housings to start with, so it needs some new housings. However, that engine's pretty good. So it's got really good plates that have been lapped, bridge ported, machine crankshaft, machined rotors, all clearance and everything. So I think it's all dowed and everything too. So with some new housings, and I mean, these engines, you know, decent spec'd up engines like that are going for, you know, $7, $8, whatever $1,000 now in that. So I'll probably need to put some new housings in it and just and sell it to someone. So if you're looking for an absolute tough rotor engine for another project, let me know. I've got one right there. So what else we got? The great wall of Penrite here. So Penrite, great supporter of full boost. So we've got, you know, just the standard stuff, sort of the HPR 40, HPR 30, and I really want to give this a crack. This is the race stuff that they use in their V8 supercar sort of thing. So I want to see if that's much different to this stuff in terms of pickling, where you know, some of the alcohol fuels can pickle a bit with the larger clearances and that. So then just some coolants and some sprays and stuff, but yeah, I've always used Penrite. We've always used Penrite in our cars before Penrite even, you know, gifted us sort of this stuff. So yeah, it's really great when companies that you use their product extensively help you out with some free product basically. So that's awesome. So if we move over to the other part of this first quarter, we've got a whole heap of Bowden stuff. So half this is actually mine and half it was actually given to us by Bowden's, because they obviously saw that, you know, we're using a fair bit of their product and wanted to support us, which is fantastic. We love it when businesses, especially Australian businesses, get on board, because we use an incredible amount of Australian product in our cars. A whole heap of stuff here. This is just where I keep my sprays and stuff in terms of paint. So you've got this stuff's okay, a bit more of Rust-Oleum there. The Dulux stuff's all right. This stuff's absolute dog crap. Don't use that if you ever want anything to stay painted, because it's terrible, and that can's probably as old as anything. This stuff's good, but it's been really hit and miss lately, to be honest. I've got some wrinkle stuff there, and I bought one of these cans and it basically imploded on itself as the first time I went to use it, which is disappointing because they're about $20-25 a can. So I've had a couple of average results with VHT lately, so been using probably more of this kind of stuff. The Rust-Oleum seems to be better. Got some bully liner left over. This is the stuff we sprayed Tornado in. So if you don't know, we have obviously our F350, and yeah, we sprayed it in the bed liner, the cab and the tray, and it is awesome. And here we've got sort of sprays, and I've got sort of two levels, so to speak. So I've got the good stuff, which is Worth. It's probably the industry leader with all this type of chemicals and stuff, and then I've just got the cheap crap, which is basically you just want to spray something for the sake of it. It might be absolutely dirty and disgusting. This is the stuff that gets used. We've got grey sealant silicone that sits upright. Should always, you can even see the arrows there. Should always have tubes like that upright, because then the sediment sits down the bottom, not over the whole tube. This is just Vaseline in a massive tub, because that's what you need when you're building rotaries. Some WD-40 in bulk, and then down the bottom is just leftover bibs and bobs and that. So I've just got a ducting thing there for a duct. This is our case that I take when I'm racing. I can just chuck it back in the car very easily. It's got some fluids, like smaller volumes, like litres and stuff like that, instead of 4 litre jugs. Fuel churn, fuel transfer thing or whatever, and then this master injector O-ring kit. So this is something that every racer on EFI should definitely have. It's got all different O-rings in that, so if you don't have one of those already and you race cars regularly, get one. The end. No excuses not to have it. So this is just some leftover rubbish from Tornado and Redline, and here is even more sort of leftover parts and stuff. So got some stuff from projects that aren't on the go anymore, as you can see. And this is just a go bag I used to have for tuning. This is just got O2 bungs, a sniffer pipe, got my timing light on there, and had like T-pieces and vacuum lines and stuff like that. So easy just to grab one bag and all your tuning stuff sort of there, and add your laptop and away you go. Skyline struts and brakes for some reason. I think they're brand new. Skyline discs there as well. Yeah, heat gun, sanding pads. So, and then down here I've just got more storage. I think this has got old Tornado parts, because as you can see over in the next part, I like to keep everything nice and neat and tidy in tubs. Now, if you don't have a big workbench, but you want to start being a YouTube star yourself, and you've got delusions of grandeur that you want to be the next Mighty Car Mods or whatever and that. It's pretty easy to do if you have any space whatsoever. You don't even need a garage, to be honest. But this is a tip that's pretty handy. So this is just this is a fold-up bench. Actually folds in half, just from Bunnings. It's like $40 or something, and then it's a black queen size, I think, bed sheet over the top of it, and it just gives a nice surface to work on. But it also gives a nice surface to film on, because the black gives a nice contrast. So you can see here it looks like a complete mess at the moment because I was just finishing up a couple of jobs in that. But what the black enables you to do is have a really nice clean area to film your B-roll in. So you can come in here and, you know, if these were all out of the way, you know, you can stack these all here if this is all neat, and you've just got a nice clean background to come in and sort of film B-roll that you might use later to supplement your normal footage. Because yeah, we can go over some tips on how to improve what you do, maybe if you're looking to get started, at the end of this video when we do the Q&A on some of the things, and that's definitely one of the tips. So let's look at the next quarter of the garage. So this is the next quarter, and what you'll see here is some banners from some great supporters. So these guys, especially FuelTech and Raceworks, have been long time and big supporters of our channel, which is fantastic. Yeah, we went with the FuelTech ECUs quite a number of years ago now, just because the application we were doing was rotary, and if you look at rotary turbos and what cars are going fast, it's basically Microtech and FuelTech essentially all over the world in great numbers. And yeah, we'd already run the Microtech and we wanted to change, so FuelTech was the obvious choice, and I couldn't be happier with the product, you know. So that's they're great, and yes, they might not be made in Australia, but that's not, you know, the be all and end all of everything for us. So they tick the box, and we are absolutely enamored with that product. And yeah, recommend if you're looking for an ECU and something that's a data logger and a dash all in one, definitely give those guys a look. So yeah, the more stuff you buy from businesses like this, it really helps YouTubers like us, because yeah, the more money they make, the more money they have in their marketing budget to spend on other YouTubers to bring you free content. So yeah, get on them, and let's have a bit of a look at the next little part here. So like I was saying just before, organisation is key, especially when you're building your car. You'll see soon that I have lots and lots of storage in this garage, because I don't like leaving stuff on the floor, especially when you're building a project and you're building a big project from scratch. Like if you're just installing a fuel pressure regulator, it's not really a project, it's just you're installing a fuel pressure regulator. If you're building a car from scratch, where you are essentially taking everything out of the car and putting everything back in that's new, you're going to need some form of organisation, or you will lose stuff. So here you can see I've got, this one's marked hose, I've got some Raceworks spanners in there, and I've got some Speedflow Teflon hose in that. Got some finish lines that are marked all there. Car is one I use for bits that I guess may have come off the car and are going back on the car. So that just keeps all those kind of things, you know, it might be body clips or panels or stuff like that, belts or something in one place. This one says Fab, and it's just all this kind of fabrication sort of stuff there. So you see Vibrant would have been, yeah, it's like stainless steel bend, some Turbo Smart stuff. So all this kind of stuff is the stuff I would keep in the Fab box. Electrical goes out saying it's all the electrical stuff, so wirings, plugs and stuff like that. I've got the FuelTech ECU and that in there. This stuff was in here before as well, and I've just pulled it out because, as you can see, I've got wires here because I'm actively doing some wiring. Nitrous and fuel, so got some nitrous outlet stuff and some other fuel related stuff that has to go in, and just working on redoing some cooler pipes. These are just Plasma Man clamps, and more storage. As you can see, it's a long and narrow garage, so there's not much ventilation in here, so I just use some fans to move some air around where yeah, to get it to where I want stuff to be, so I can actually breathe in here when I start cars. So one of the things that I dislike at the moment about this garage that I sort of had out at my old house at Mernda is I don't really have anywhere to store a lot of my steel in that. So as you can see here, it's just sort of sitting there wedged in up against the wall, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass to access, and yeah, I need to work on something. So at the moment I've got some, you know, just some steel sheet here. I've got some round stock down there, got some other exhaust pipe and some other stuff here, and then I've got some RHS there, but I need to work on a solution. I'll probably put racks back up here and that, but it's been one of those things where we've been very, very busy in the last 18 months or whatever, and that's just one of those things where it's a nice to have, but it's a not necessary, and yeah, sometimes you just got to concentrate and get the job at hand done and not worry about making things like this all pretty, just get them out of the way so you can get back to work. So that's pretty much, because normally when I drive in a car sits over this side, there's not a hell of a lot over here, because you don't want to spend all your time when you're in the garage or your shed moving stuff around out of the way to get to this or get to that. So that's why this stuff's pretty blank, so I can post up a car. The only other thing here of interest is my tube bender. So if you're looking to have a crack at a roll cage, I think Speed works, and like a JD2 or JD squared or whatever that make tube benders. This bender is absolutely, as it says, affordable bender. It's a very affordable bender, and it makes really, really good bends. So if you're looking to build a roll cage yourself, you think you're a pretty good welder, you can give it a crack. That's definitely one of the ways to go, and that comes with a whole heap of dies, and the bends are really good, and it's really, really easy to use. So yeah, look that one up if you're looking to give a roll cage a go. All right, so that's the first sort of 2 quarters. That's the half done. Let's have a look at the third quarter here. All right, so the garage is obviously dominated in the middle, is bit by this great behemoth, and this is, let me just say, if you have space to put a hoist in your garage, do it. If you don't have the space, make space. I can't stress enough how much this has improved the work we've done, sped up the work we've done, and probably improved the quality of the work we've done, just because it's, you know, you're not struggling lying around your back to build something like that. If I was to build that on the ground with no hoist, it just would have been so much more complicated to get everything like geometry and that right. So yeah, the Joel's Garage Gear is the one we run, and it has been absolutely flawless. It was so easy to put in. We put it in ourselves. There's a video on fullBOOST if you want to look at how to install a hoist. But yeah, we're about, I think the walls here are about 4.2 and then, or 3.9, and it works the way up into the middle to being about 4.3 or whatever, and it just fits. But yeah, I can get under a car, no worries. I'm 6'2", so that's fantastic. The next part in, I guess, this half is, I've got 3 roll cabs here, and then I've got a heap of storage and some machinery up the back. So what I might do is I'll go over some of the tools here, this first, then I'll do the back half second. So these roll cabs I've had for maybe about 2 years, maybe just on about 2 years, and they're not actually very full, but when I moved out of here, I had more space longer way, so I knew, yeah, I could fit them in, and yeah, just knew someone that they were incredibly cheap at the time, so I jumped on it. Up here I have battery chargers because I've obviously got a power bank in it, just some screws here and an organizer just to make stuff easy, because I've also got screws lying around, but that's the one that I can go to and just grab a hold of and walk around here and everywhere, and I've got every screw I need. If we go through the drawers, you can see this one's got plenty of stuff in it. Next one, well, we've got more stuff. So this is almost sort of my overflow from my actual abrasives drawer. So this is just some flap discs and some cutting discs and stuff like that, grinding discs. Next one is sort of overflow of drill bits. I've picked these up. This is like an old style drill, so I think I picked these up at clearance at Bunnings once. So they're really good drill bits, but they moved to a different generation style one, so got a whole heap of that. Same with this stuff, more overflow drill bits. If we go down, we have, it's basically an entire drawer of speed flow fittings bags, and yeah, question on everyone's lips might be, what's that for? Well, that is a question that'll be answered 2021. And next drawer, empty again. This drawer has just got a whole heap of faster drive stuff, so just a mix of Irwin and DeWalt stuff here. And yeah, this is the type of stuff that you put in your impact driver, just to drive out screws and that. And this is all very hard wearing stuff. Love both those brands and that. And here is the great hole saw drawer. So I've got a Worth kit there, but most of this stuff, I'd say 95% of it is Lennox. Some of it's DeWalt as well. But yeah, these hole saws are the absolute bee's knees and duck's guts. And the reason I've got sort of one of everything here is because you never know when you need it. And if it's, like I've said before to a lot of people, I do a lot of my work at night time, and there's no shops open at night time. So if I don't have the right hole saw, that could stuff up everything. So I've just got one of everything, and that just solves that problem. Next drawer is where I keep the first lot of power tools. So yeah, I've got obviously a lot of DeWalt stuff, and for good reason. It's just incredible. I mean, they're just incredible tools. So this is the stuff. This is the batteries and the stuff that I use the most, and this is sort of the stuff I use the absolute least. Obviously, I'm not really a woodworker or whatever, so I've got a circ saw and a different recip and that in there, and a jigsaw. But in here, I've got drill, impact wrenches and stuff like that, and all the batteries or whatever. And the thing I like about the DeWalt is they've got this tech, which is called flex volt. So it can be 54 volt or 18 volts. This is an 18 volt tool. So you put this battery on, and it's a big 9 amp hour 18 volt battery, and it's got heaps and heaps of grunt. But I can take this same battery and put it on this tool here that is a 54 volt tool, and I don't have to have two battery platforms or two batteries side by side, which makes the tool just like total pain in the ass, and the ergonomics of the tool terrible to use. So I can have one battery across 18 volt and 54 volt tools, and it just makes complete sense. And yeah, it's great. There's nothing worse than investing in a battery platform, and then that manufacturer goes and changes the platform or whatever, and then they've got an 18 volt and a 40 volt and a 60 volt or whatever and that. But DeWalt, obviously, because it's it's pretty top of the tree when it comes to this sort of tech. They're smart enough to work out a solution for those people. So yeah, it's great. I've never been let down by any of it, and I would highly recommend it to anyone and everyone. If you're just starting out, maybe spend a tiny bit more and get a much better quality tool. I've used lots and lots of power tools before, and let me tell you, nothing comes close to this. All right, moving along. Next drawer, it says wood screws, and that's because, whoa, lo and behold, it's full of wood screws. So yes, this is obviously this is a garage, but it is also sort of my shed. I don't have a shed down the back or anything at all. This is where I have to keep everything except sort of gardening tools. I've got a place under the house where I keep a lot of that stuff, but I keep all this here just because it's easy to find. So next drawer is again full of some Speedflow fittings there. Best shocks in the business right there. Next drawer is also full of Speedflow. As you can, these drawers were full, but the project we're working on has emptied that out. So, and then I come up here and I've got some electrical stuff. So this is stuff that don't use much of these days. Got crimp terminals there, got some other terminals and stuff. And up here are the tools I would use for electrical stuff. Some fuses in there, but again, these are, if you're ever going to work with Deutsch fittings and that, these are, those little plastic little ones are crap. You always lose them and they break. This is the sort of setup you want to remove the pins from your HD sort of terminals and that. Some genuine Bosch relays there as well. And in here I've just got a second set of backup sort of spanners that I don't use much because I've got my toolkits over the other side that we'll look at, but got some metric imperial spanners and some sockets and hex keys and that there, but I don't really, this is sort of the secondary sort of set that if someone was helping me here, they could use this set. But yeah, The other cabinet is pretty empty. Metal screws. And this is the vice grip. So this is the don't argue. You're coming out today and you're gonna, I don't care if you break or not. So this is the drawer when I need to get aggressive with something, they come out, but they're also used to clamp workpieces and that too. So vice grip is a brand name from Irwin. So if you have locking pliers that aren't Irwin, they're just locking pliers, they're not vice grips. So yeah, we can go over on something else that's very similar to that. People don't understand with these are brand names, and they're the best brand names, and that's why everyone refers to every product as that. So these are all vice grips. So you can see this one's a SIG Chrome one, but that's just a locking plier. All these ones here say vice grip because that's exactly what they are. If it's not Irwin, it's not a vice grip, and that's why all these ones here are actually vice grip brand, because they're just the best. All right, so the last few drawers we have empty, empty, empty. Just some circlip pliers and stuff, and some locking wire pliers. And I think that's a brake kit, and then safety glasses, because you've only got one set of eyes, and if you damage them, they'll be done forever. Up the top of these, a little bit of a mess, but it's organised chaos. One fire extinguisher, another fire extinguisher, and some stuff that needs to be put away, and then just some rags and a fan. I know it doesn't get as hot in Melbourne as it does in Queensland or whatever, but that fan comes in handy when it's 40, because if it's like 35 or whatever and that, this is a tin shed basically, and yeah, the temperature up on that roof can be like 65 degrees when it's only sort of 25 in here, which means it radiates all that heat into here and it gets roasting hot. All right, so over on this side I have a couple of stands, or exhaust stands or whatever stands in that. The Joel's Garage Gear ones as well, so they are killer. And then my other two, or 2.5 almost, two working cabinets that I do 95% of my work out of. So they're a bit of a mess. Up here you can see these are all my go-to tools, so I never put these away. They're lights and like a 12-volt impact wrench and a 12-volt impact driver. And they're just the ones that I use all the time, that if they're in a drawer, it'd just be silly. I'd have to open up that drawer, whereas here I can just go here, bang, grab it and use it. So you always want to make the stuff using the most accessible, so that's why they're there. Obligatory radio, unfortunately, like I'm filming now, can't use the radio because if it did, music would come up in the background, there'd be a copyright strike against the channel. So unfortunately, when I'm filming a lot of stuff, I can't use it, but when I'm filming B-roll and stuff, I have the tunes blasting. And I've got some gloves here, even though everyone hates apparently when people who are mechanics, which I'm not, wear gloves. But if you're using like brake fluid and corrosive stuff like that, use gloves, don't be a hero. And I've got a blower there as well to just blow away all this mess when I don't want it. So, all right, let's have a bit of a deep dive into these drawers. So we'll just start top left-hand corner. I have some texters, paint pens, sorry, they're not texters. This is the paint pen drawer. Important when you're marking stuff that you don't want to be sprayed off by chemicals or burnt off by angle grinders or whatever. Paint pens are super critical. So texters like this, you spray it with some brake cleaner or whatever, they're probably going to wash straight off. Paint pens here, texters and borrows and pens here, and some big boys. So you always need these, so they start up there, and then I just have another grab one there. They're really handy. Knives in here, I've got scissors, I've got a flop out knife, and I've got, as you can see here, it's a Stanley knife. So what we were talking about with before vice grips, same thing goes for knives. So this is a utility knife made by Stanley, but everyone calls them Stanley knives because, quite honestly, Stanley make the best utility knives. So you can see here, utility blades. They don't say Stanley blades, even though they are made by Stanley, but the reason I have a Stanley knife or a Stanley branded utility knife is because, just like with the vice grips, this is the best knife. These are the best knives you can get. They make a whole heap and they make plenty in that, but if you're looking to buy a utility knife, there's a reason why people call them Stanley knives, because Stanley make the best ones. So if you're looking at a knife, go and get a Stanley knife. These blades, the Fat Max ones, are just a little bit better than the standard style ones, so I like those as well, and it's just in a convenient little holder. Now, screwdrivers, I've got what you call a through tang, which means you can hit the back end of this with a hammer, and it's steel essentially all the way through to the tip. So any shock you have here will get resulted back here, and they won't shatter in that as well. Some picks there and some VDE screwdrivers, because I'm clearly an electrician. This one says tape and electrical, and guess what? There is tape and stuff for electrical in here. Shock, I know, but we've got some just normal cloth tape, duct tape or whatever, double-sided tape, and then some of that Tessa, not the fleecy sort of stuff, just normal cloth tape, some normal electrical tape, LED test light. Don't use the normal ones with incandescent globes, because if you hit the wrong circuit like an airbag, you will have that thing blow up in your face. So LED ones, good ones, will have like red, green polarity in that one as well. And then just a mini multimeter. It's a nice little one, and a gas soldering iron and some solder. Last drawer up here is glues and sealants. Now, like I was saying before, this is not the way to store your sort of 300 gram silicons and that, because what will happen is when it sits here like this, sediment will gather all the way through this tube, instead of if it was sitting up here, it'll just gather down the bottom. So always have your tube standing up. I have these ones sitting down here because it's literally just junk that I would use to seal up something like this on a roof or whatever, so I don't care about that. They're probably rock hard, and I used them ages ago and they need to be thrown out anyway. But got some liquid pipe sealant, so here, instead of using this, love using that. Thread locker, got some Loctite thread locker as well. Permatex Ultra Grey and some Ultra Copper, and this is pretty much what every single person's aviation gasket sealer looks like after you use it the first time. So I don't think they've come up with a better way to store this, rather than undoing this and the little brush comes out and half it runs down the tube. So that's that, and this is just some JB Weld type of stuff that if if it really hits the fan. You've got the liquid stuff, and I've got some putty stuff there, and sometimes you just have to use that stuff. So is what it is, but it works when you need it, and that's pretty much for this drawer. This will always happen when you have storage drawers, because any little space, you'll put anything up there and it just gets a bit out of control. Normally I like to have a magnetic parts tray somewhere. I like this, and then you can just grab things like this and just go boom, and put them there, and then it cleans up all this, and then I get the magnetic part tray at maybe the end of the month and put it all back away. So recycling all the bolts that I don't need. All right, so if we go to the next drawer, I have my go-to spanners and whatnot. This is the stuff that gets used the most. So I know a lot of people put sockets and that up here, but as you can see up here is where I put complete garbage. So they're all sorted out really well here. You know, it's got sort of that EVA foam, and it's all really easy to get to. I've got I've got 1/2-inch stuff here. I've got 3/8 here, metric, and then I've got a little bit of 3/8 imperial stuff here, and then just a little bit of leftover nonsense there or whatever. So that's there. Now is the next part, which is the spanners. So because I work on Jap cars as well as some American stuff too, I need imperial. So I have metric spanners, and then I have imperial spanners. I really like these EVA trays because they're all properly labelled. You can grab them easily, and no matter how many times how long you've had this stuff for, you'll still always look at the numbers and go, that's the spanner I want, and then grab it and that. So I've got some longer ones here, these are almost like breaker bar style spanners. So if you're looking to undo sort of torque converter bolts and that, and you want to, not an offset spanner, you want a long one and give you some really good leverage, these ones are great for torque converter bolts. So that's why stuff like that is there. Next, I've got the universal U-Fix-It. So I don't really use any of them except for this one. You can see this one. It's got a big wide mouth, but it's also very narrow. So you see things like this, how thick they are when you compare it to that. So this can get into a lot of spaces if you need it, but most of these cabinets, and the reason I've got these cabinets is because I have the right tool to do the job, because this will just generally lead to rounding off bolts and just get the right tools to do the job. But if you had to buy one of these, this is the type of one that I'd be looking to add to your toolkit. Next we have Allen keys and sets, and this is what we have here. So these are 1/2-inch drive Allen sets. This is 1/4 inch mainly in here. Then I just have some normal hex keys, as well as some some T-bar style ones. So as you can see, I mean, the cabinets are SIG chrome, and most of these tools are SIG chrome, and the reason for that is this stuff's really good quality, and it lasts, and you know, they have the sort of lifetime warranty or whatever. So I've never actually broken anything in the 7 years that I've had a couple of these cabinets. So you know, it stands to reason why I'd keep on buying it. This is just a bit of a overflow drawer of some 3/8 hex, and mainly my cutting sort of implements. So needle nose pliers, diagonal pliers, and sort of linesman pliers or whatever, they're all in here, as well as sort of these shears. Next we get into, I can't even see it now, it's been on here this side, but it's basically drilling accessories. And this is where I keep all my drill bits. So I've got see some Christmas tree uni bits or whatever. This is another one where people might call all of these sort of uni bits or whatever, but Irwin's the only one that is an actual unibit. The rest are just basically a copy of that. So DeWalt, these are what they call a pilot point. Find them really good. As you can see here, they've got like sort of a nib here, and that's so you don't need to center punch something first or drill a pilot hole. They just properly locate. And this is an Irwin set, which is essentially the same sort of thing. So I really like those two sets. They work really well. Moving on to the bottom drawer, and this is the angle grinder drawer. So normally there's 3 angle grinders in here. The other 2 are on the bench, we'll see later. And then the reason I run with 3 is because the 3 most common things you use when you're grinding are cutting, grinding, and sort of material removal with the flap disc. So I've got 3 grinders for those 3 discs. So also got some wire wheels and stuff in there too, but mainly just use those 3 things. All right, hopefully you haven't got tool fatigue by now. We go through some of this stuff, and this is just more of secondary tools. So some wire brushes and whatnot. Now you see some of these drawers actually missing the handle. That's because this fell off the back of my moving truck when I was moving from, like, you know, 1.5 meters up, and this is the only damage that happened. This tiny little corner got beaten in, and a couple of these riveted on handles fell off. So again, if I'm saying, like, why do I buy SIG chrome? That in its own sells itself. I mean, literally, this was full of tools, fell from 1.5 meters height, and it still works perfectly fine. So I mean, yeah, that for me is like signed, sealed, delivered. I'll always be buying this sort of stuff more likely. So if I go in here, we've got some files in here. I've got some miscellaneous automotive tools in here that get used. Some of them make up to, you know, lock on flywheels for rotaries and whatnot, brake bleeding kits, you know, all that kind of stuff. Spring compressors, valve lappers, you name it, that sort of stuff's in there. Here's some other clamps. So these are mainly like lighter duty sort of clamps that are in here, harmonic balancer puller or whatever. PVC pipe cutter, plumbers will know what that is. However, I use this for cutting rubber hose and all that, and silicone hose. It's really good for that. That's just to whack up the back end of your transmission so it doesn't leak fluid everywhere. And then I've just got my drawer of persuaders, so, and some chisels and stuff here in that too. So yeah, a whole heap of style of hammers, rubber mallets, dead blows, mini sledges, and all different kinds of hammers. But these are basically the ones that get used the most out in the garage. And you know, if you bring in these ones out, something's in trouble. So look here, we've got the spanners that are rarely used because they're just massive, so it's unlikely to use them. Next one is the specialty ones where we've got like ratcheting spanners and stubby ratcheting spanners and crow's feet and stuff like that, and you know, the brake flare ones. Next one there, I've had the impact sort of sockets. So everyone know that you shouldn't be using chrome sockets on impacts, but everyone does. But the impact ones are softer, so that, and these are harder but more brittle. These are softer, so they'll take that impact hit. But yeah, got plenty of those in there. Next, this is just a cheapy sort of tap and die set, and a cheapy right angle sort of nut cert set and a thread repair kit. This is a much better quality tap set, which gets used a fair bit, and this is a much better quality right angle riv nut tool. Sorry, not right angle, it's just the straight sort of one. So that's killer. Here is my sandpaper or abrasive sort of drawer. And here I've got sanding disc sandpaper, and yeah, these sort of, whatever they're called, Scotch-Brite sort of pads. And next is sort of recip saw blades. That's just a selection of all the blades, and they're just put in here based on their tooth count, so 14, 18 or whatever and whatnot, and then I can just find them easily when I need them, 10, 24 or whatever, and the tooth count depends on, you know, what you're going to cut. So if you're going to cut really heavy grade steel, you might want a 10. If you're going to cut timber, you want a 6. If you're going to cut really thin aluminium, you want a 24. So take one look over here, and then that'll be about it, and we can move on. Noid tester for testing out like injectors after you've installed, or if you've got a problem. Quick release kit, pilot bearing puller. Got an easy out set there. I've done a video on best way to remove studs and that, or broken bolts, so you can see that. Nothing. Some leftover header wrap. Another tap set. Cylinder leak down tester. And brake bleeding sort of stuff. Right, so that's pretty much what's in this first area of the back half. Let's move to the back half, where all that business end of all the stuff that gets done, and have a look what we've got down there. So obviously been doing some work, and here's my little portable bandsaw. I don't have a massive big bandsaw with water cooling and all that because, well, I just don't have the space, and well, I'm not a fabricator, I'm not a mechanic, I don't do this stuff full time, and that does the job, so that's more than enough for me. Got an engine crane because I used to have a rotary race car, and that's part and parcel of the job. So some other tools here. I've got some go jacks or quick jacks, whatever you want to call them, a linisher, sander, a vac to clean everything up, and that's obviously an engine stand which has no engine at the moment. Then have a lot of stuff in here from DCI. So this is all heat protectant stuff, and it's just in a bit of a state at the moment because I've been going through it. And yeah, if we move over to here, you can see just how little space I've got to work with, I guess. We're getting really, really cramped and compressed in here already. So let's have a bit of a chat about these two things. So yes, I am not a mechanic, and yes, I am not a fabricator. It always makes me laugh when people who are like, well, from a fabricator's point of view, I can't believe you would do that, or this looks crap. It's like, well, that's great, because I'm not a fabricator, and I'm not a mechanic. I work in sales in a different industry and that, and I do just this for fun. So if you do this for a living and you don't like what I do, well, if it's not a good enough quality to how you would do it, well, you'd want to hope so, because, you know, sometimes I can go without welding for like 6 or 9 months or something. So if you're doing it every day and you're trying to compare your work to mine, I'd look elsewhere, buddy. But I'm just a hobbyist, and as you can see here is the hobby lathe, and there is the hobby mill. And the reason I've got those two tools is the same people that probably say, oh, you know, we're a machinist and fabricator, blah, blah, you know, can't believe you would do that, or I'm an engine reco place and I don't like this or whatever. The reason I have both of these two tools is because machinists and that, in my opinion, are the absolute worst of the worst when it comes to getting jobs done, turnaround, lead time. So I own both of these tools because the people out there that do this for a living are just too slow at doing it. If they were quicker at their job and they actually didn't lie and say, yeah, we can have that done in 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks later they haven't even started on it, well, guess what? I probably wouldn't own a lathe or a mill, but, you know, that's just part and parcel of the industry. So unfortunately, I own a lathe and I own a mill just out of necessity almost more than anything, because the people that run the industries of those that I, you know, do stuff like this on are just far too slow at doing this stuff. So you got no one to blame but yourself for why people build stuff at home, and if you don't like it, well, you know, don't overbook your jobs and do your jobs on time. So one of the last ones I got up here, I've got another roll cab, which is just sort of full of some milling bits. So you see Morse taper sort of bits and that in there, and some other larger sort of drill bits. And here I've got collets and taps and all that kind of stuff as well. I've got a rack for some hose clamps there, I have air tools in this, and I have my belt drive air compressor. So belt drive, much quieter and much better performing than your compressor style one or whatever. But as you can see here, it's an absolute unmitigated disaster in that. So we'll keep on moving along. As you can see here, this is something that I never thought I'd use as much as I do, but it's a transmission jack, another piece from Joel's Garage Gear, and as you can see, it's doing its job as it's got a transmission on there at the moment. So I've just wrapped this in here because I'm in the middle of doing another job to get a job done to get this in or whatever, and I just had to dummy something in place. And yeah, you'll see more of this big bad Hughes Turbo 400 in the future. Up here is just there's not much stuff in here. There's just bibs and bobs and that, and it's mainly somewhere to keep other stuff. But this is my workbench, and something you'll probably see here is that it's incredibly small, but I don't believe you need miles and miles of workbench, because what will end up happening is you'll put crap on there and that crap will never move, and then you just keep on piling more and more crap up there. So I like having a more condensed sort of workbench, so I'm only even needing to work on one job sort of at a time, really. So I've got one job here for fabrication, I've got another job down there for the wiring, and that's enough jobs sort of to have concurrently running at any one point in time. And then yeah, I've got a whole heap of Irwin clamps. These are the quick release sort of clamps. They are just awesome, and you can see my sort of flue stacks here from my great exhaust setup, which helps muffle everything when cars are running in here. But this is my mill. I've had this for I've probably had this for about 4 years now, and it's been great. So I think this mill cost about $2.5 grand or maybe $3 grand. I built the base myself because I didn't like the one that they were going to come with. I wanted it at a different height, so it's a bit taller because I'm a bit taller. So that's at the right height for me. And yeah, I firmly believe that the investment in that has already paid for itself time over in terms of getting projects done quicker, being able to do work myself. Yeah, it's much better than sending stuff out and that. So love that. Out of the mill and lathe, what would I buy if I only needed one? I'd definitely buy the mill. So the mill's the one I bought first. The mill's the one I use the most. And yeah, the mill I would use most definitely more than the lathe. So if you're looking at buying one, definitely buy the mill. If you can't buy either of them, at least buy a drill press. Having something like a drill press really helps you do stuff, because you can also then get things like this rotary table, which means you can do really concentric sort of circles and machining sort of stuff and that. So that's my machinery stuff. This is argon. It is the big boy because we blast through a fair bit of argon. And here is my completely junk Chinese welder that is, wow, this would be easily probably 10 or 12, maybe 12 or 13 years old now. Maybe more, maybe 14 years old now. So this was one of the absolute first sort of Chinese welders that anyone sort of had made. I reckon it might be about 15 or 16 years old now, come to think of it. So it was one of the first. So it was $1,000 back then. And I know they're about, similar ones probably about $1,200 or so now. So, $1,000 16 years ago is probably more like $2.5 grand now or something. But it's just been so good. It's probably the foot pedal. It's one thing people say is like, how can you weld without a foot pedal? The foot pedal on this thing is just total balls. So I try and use it when I can, but it's just crap. And I mean, the welder really probably needs to be retired, and I probably need to get a new one. But it still does the job for now. And I've bought, this is my this is my MIG welder, and it's a brand name one. And this thing, I hate the gun on it. It often needs retensioning sometimes in that too. So, I haven't been blown away by how great this thing is versus that Chinese thing over there. So, yeah, I'm sure if I bought a $3,000 TIG welder, it would be significantly better than that. And likewise, I mean, I've had this a fair few years, but I've only just started using the MIG again recently because I actually took apart the trigger and redesigned some of the stuff in there because it was so crap that you could almost pull the trigger all the way on, the gas still wouldn't flow. So I played with some of the stuff in there and it's much better now. But yeah, moving on to the next part. Before we do, we've got storage here and more storage under here. So I need to come up with a system for these. So this is some of my bolts here, and they're all sort of labelled what they are. This is all mainly Imperial, a little bit of larger metric in that and there, but these are all modular and they clip into each other, which is great. And then, you know, they don't come apart. And I've got plenty of them under there, but obviously they're under there on the ground getting covered in shavings and dirt and dust or whatever and that. So what I really need to do is probably, I need to come up with a solution, because as you can see, all that space up against the wall there is completely wasted. And what I want to do here is probably go up, because there'll be a lot of stuff that I've got here that I might not need. I might need like once a year or something, and that stuff can be right up the top and it doesn't matter. So I need to get a lot of this stuff off the ground, because yeah, when we do work, and it's why I always work sort of one thing at a time, and I can't build engines while I'm fabricating, because as you can see, the ground gets covered in absolute crap and that, so you can't have that around while you're building engines. So whenever we're building someone's car or building something for myself and that, the engine building stuff has to be put on hold until this is a very, very, very ultra clean environment. So give you a quick look in here, and this is just more easy to go to grab style stuff, nuts and washers. We have more bolts, more metric stuff in there, more metric stuff in there. It's labelled screws, but it's got all my sort of Allen key head sort of stuff, sockets. This one's a bit emptier now because I moved a lot of the electrical stuff out of there because it was just growing too much. I got some grommets, O-rings, some springs and junk. Here's sort of my TIG welding or welding overall sort of stuff. So that's all there and sized. This is just a drawer where my daughter puts everything that she steals from the floor of the garage. So whenever I can't find a tool or I can't find something, I come in here. It's also my sort of hose and fittings one. So I've got the Raceworks sort of jaws and the Raceworks Teflon olive install kit here, and you know, thread ID kit or whatever. Just some more overflow washers and sort of screws. And this is also empty because there are other electrical stuff in here now, but it doesn't anymore. So I guess let's look over here now. So basically at the end of the garage, we've done almost like a full circle, and as you can see here, it's like a great wall of storage, and that's because I like everything being in its place, because yeah, when you've only got an hour a night to spend, you don't want to spend 30 minutes of it looking for that one tool, because you'll get frustrated pretty quickly and you'll get pretty defeated and want to move on to another project or the next project. It can be those little things where, you know, you do a project and you get to the last 5%. That last 5% might take 80% of the time of the project, and if you can't find something, what you'll find is that, you know, the project that could be really completed in a month ends up taking 6 months because you're annoyed at everything. So we'll go through some of the stuff here. It's all, I need to open it up because it's all labelled, but here I've just got, I guess, rotary stuff up the top. Most of this stuff is okay to passable, but it's yeah, it's whatever, it just sits there. And next drawer down, these ones, you see the little E, that's for empty. Here I've got some eccentric shafts in there, battery charger and electric water pump in there, some other relays and connectors. Here I've got braided hoses, rubber hoses, that's empty now. Silicon hoses in bends and straights. Excess wiring, you never know when you just need a little bit of wire or whatever. You don't need to always get a brand new wire from a loom. You can just use that. That's a whole heap of crap in there that needs to be sorted at some point, as well as some master rotary ignition timing sort of hubs for top dead center. My tube notcher, which is actually down there at the moment, normally sits in there, and some other grinders. All my ignition leads, so obviously I've used a lot of ignition leads over time, so all the excess ones fit there. Some other fittings from a ProFlow or whatever, and I've got, it's mainly Raceworks I think in there now, so probably need to scrub that out. Some casters, you can see there I've had stuff in here, I've crossed it out, so that's not in there anymore. Stickers and conduit, I have no idea. Anyway, here is just, this is probably a waste. This is probably some old oil and some old air filters and stuff. My Dremel and all little attachments, don't use that as much these days as I used to, but again, it says oil, that'll be older oil. FD junk, that's from my old FD. There's crap in there from when I had it. Rotary seals and plugs, so that's got a lot of spark plugs and all of rotary stuff, so tools and Mazda seals and stuff in there. Nothing there. Other excess rotary parts in both of these two. And here is sort of where I keep my steel at the moment, because I don't really have anywhere else to put it, or metal, so to speak. So this is scrap aluminium. Behind that's some more scrap aluminium and steel, so it's just 3 garbage bins basically. I've got large wiring, so 5mm and over sort of sits in here. Then I've got exhaust straight, exhaust bends, steam pipe or chromoly piping, RHS in both of these. And then I've just got some excess fittings and some aluminium bends here. So these exhaust ones are obviously mild steel or stainless. And just up there is where all the aluminium stuff is kept. So that's pretty much the garage. It's still a work in progress. I really want to knock down this back wall and probably just get another 3 meters. I don't want the bench here. I want it up against the side over here. But it's a matter of space at the moment. So if I could get just another 3 meters on the back of this, it would probably really help moving how I move stuff along. So at the moment I'm literally under the back of the car. And as you can see, there's not much room to the back of the shed. So if I get another 3 meters and this workbench wasn't here, what I think I'd find is that I could actually push a car at the back here. So maybe like a long-term project at the back. I could have the one that's always like on the hoist area, and then I could have one out the front. So yeah, at the moment it's really sort of almost a 1-car operation in here, but I think if another 3 meters on the back could get me to probably having 3 cars in here very easily and comfortably. So that's pretty much the garage. Let's move on to what I said at the start, which was the Q&A sort of thing and some of the stuff we've done, and yeah, have a bit of a chat about that.